I'm not talking to you, man. Jesus. My name's Jillian, and this is Jillian Camps Arizona. Well, today actually it's Jillian Bikes Arizona because I come outside today, and unfortunately my back tire here is flat. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to actually flip the bike over if you don't have a stand, which I don't. So I just wanted to do a quick close-up of the tools. So here are the three main ones to get a tire off. So you get it off using either a wrench like this, where it's got the socket, or you can use an adjustable wrench, such as this one. And this is actually the one that I'm going to use in this video. And then you need at least one tire iron. Usually they come in a pack of like 5 or 6, but you need at least one of these. It's got a hook on the end and then a little pry bar on the other end in order to get this out. And this is really helpful when trying to get the rubber off the tire itself. So, okay. So, in order to get the tire off, you first have to loosen the nut on both sides. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take off the tire carefully. So, what I do first actually is I put it into the highest gear. So you have to move it so that the chain, and that's why I have the camera facing this way, so that the chain is to the outermost gear, the smallest gear, the hardest gear. So we're just going to shift up in order to make that happen. And then you just pedal. We're now in the outermost gear, and that doesn't take very long, so it just kind of clicks. It just clicks a couple times, and then you're in the outermost gear. So actually, one of the first things that you have to do is you have to disconnect the brakes. So I have these V-style brakes, so you just kind of pinch and it lifts. As you can see, the brake just kind of disconnects down there, so that way it gives you a little more room to access. And you can actually lift the tire out that way with the brakes disconnected. I like to use the adjustable wrench actually. I find it to be the easiest. So you just use the adjustable wrench in order to get it to the right spot. And these should be tight enough to hold the tire in, but they should not be like pressing your frame or distorting your frame in any way. So it should not be really that difficult to get the nuts loosened. All right, so I got that one loosened. So now we have the brakes disconnected and we're in the highest gear. So we just have to make sure that when we lift out the tire, we don't take the chain with us. So just kind of pull the chain off and pull the tire free. And then that's it. See? Again, if the tire iron is too hard to use, it means your tire is full. So what you do is you just press the valve in order to let more air out of your flat tire in order to make it easier for the tire iron. So what we do is we're just going to use the tire iron we use the flat end, not the hook end. So use the hook end later if your tire is really hard. But since these are easy, it's not that difficult to get it out. So what we're going to do is you just kind of stick it under the rim and pull the rubber out. So this is where the hook comes in handy, because you can actually hook it there and then slide it along in order to get the next one in. So, but in this case, it's really easy to get it in. So you just slide it along the whole rim in order to loosen the tire so that you can get out the inner tube. So then what we do is we just pull the inner tube out. And again, you have to make sure that the inner tube is totally flat for this. This is the inner tube that I want to use. It's called Benzo, and I actually buy these in a 10-pack. So they're really easy to put in, and the 10-pack is actually pretty cheap. So they're not the thickest inner tube, but I really like the quality of these inner tubes. And in Arizona, even if you have a super thick inner tube, it's not going to last very long. So you just take it out of the packaging and you unscrew it. And actually, we have to pump it up a little bit. This will make it a lot easier to go into the tire, because you can't put it in the tire when it's totally flat. It just does not work very well. All right, so I've actually pumped this up just slightly, and it's still flat so that we can easily, you don't want to pump it up all the way. So this is less than 5 pounds inside of this. I like to put in the the piece first, where the inner tube, where you can pump it up. So there's actually a hole right here on the bike, on the actual rim itself. So I just like to shove that in first. Then you just kind of push the inner tube in gently, using your fingers and kind of rolling along and making sure that the tire is fully inside. So it's okay if it pinches a little bit, because we are going to be pumping up the tire, but we're going to pump it up really slowly. I just like to double check the bead of the tire to make sure that it's underneath the rim. So if you can see any bead, so this is it's called the bead of the tire. As you can see, it's kind of bunched up here. That's bad. So you just got to make sure it's underneath the rim at all times. So, because otherwise you could have a blowout. And I just like to check both sides. And this is before I start blowing it up. So I like to pull this tight, and I just check the bead of the tire to make sure it's fully under the rim. And now just using a regular bike tire pump, we're going to blow up the tire slowly. I just like to gently bounce the tire as I'm blowing it up. That way it kind of moves around and adjusts properly. Once the tire starts feeling tight, I just check the bead again to make sure that it's underneath the rim. And especially I check it where the valve is, where you pump it up, because that is a prime spot. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to put it back onto the bike itself. So we have the tire fully pumped up, and in order to put it back, you just reverse the process. So I'm actually going to give you the view of the tire itself. So as you can see, we're going to put the chain, once we took it off on the smallest cog. We're going to put it back onto the smallest cog right here. So you're just going to very carefully line up the tire, and you have to pull the chain back because it goes, if you recall when we took it off, it goes here. This is where the cog rests, because then it pulls down the derailleur and it all aligns. So what I like to do is I just like to kind of gently set the chain in first. So what I like to do is I like to gently push down on the bike tire in order to kind of seat it back into the nut. So you can see this back one's not seated. So we'll just kind of push it and push it back. And then I check the other side, and this one is seated. So then we can just screw it on a little bit with our hands. And then we just make sure that the chain is indeed on the smallest bracket there. So you can see that the chain is indeed on the smallest bracket. See? And that's where we want it. So the chain goes around here, so you just got to remember to make sure that the chain is in the same spot. That way it can go peacefully. And then I just like to tighten by hand with this. And then that's it. And then what you do is you use the adjustable wrench in order to fully tighten it. So we're going to use this to fully tighten these nuts on each side, because it's a back tire. It doesn't have the quick release like my front tire does. Then we're going to shift it to make sure that it shifts. So this is how you finish changing out a tire. So now we can just go ahead and throw this old one out and enjoy our bike ride. Thanks for watching.